You know, as an old teacher of mine once said, don't be sharp, don't be flat, be natural. Listen, I didn't write that. I just stole it from an old teacher. People have been asking me about music and what kind of music I listen to. This ought to be easy. I only like everything. So all my life I've been a giant music fan. I mean, from the moment I heard it for the very first time as a little child, you know, children's records and Disney stuff, right? And it just went from there. And I mean, growing up, I was listening to all sorts of things. I mean, I remember the first time I heard the Beatles, I went out of my mind. I couldn't believe it. It was so great. I mean, people like Stevie Wonder, right? Of course I liked him. He's one of my peeps. Elton John I liked. I liked old Chicago, the old Jackson 5 stuff, the Motown stuff, you know, the Four Tops, the Supremes, the Temptations. Then as I got a little bit older, I started listening to things like Pink Floyd and Queen. I mean, that stuff was really cool, and that kind of introduced me to stereo and all the fun you can have with two speakers instead of one. You know, I loved hearing somebody play the guitar, like Jimi Hendrix, you know? What a monster, absolute legend. You know, Bob Dylan, right? The Ramones, I love Dave Edmunds, Elvis Costello, Nick Lowe, the Bee Gees, you know, even Bruce, well, the first 4 Bruce Springsteen albums anyway, and then we had a fight, but, you know, I've never forgiven him. Marvin Gaye, Casey and the Sunshine Band, right? Carly Simon, James Taylor, Simon and Garfunkel, you know, just tons and tons of stuff growing up. Even solo Paul Simon records, of course, everybody likes those. I mean, there's more, right? The Beach Boys, Santana, Rod Stewart, Paul McCartney and Wings, all the solo Beatles stuff, the John Lennon stuff, George Harrison, even the Ringo Starr stuff I liked. So then after high school, I discovered a guy who would become my all-time favorite, seriously. His name is Prince. Now, it's funny because people always said to me, you know, if you knew what he looked like, you wouldn't like him. I always found that to be insulting. See, here's the thing I like about Prince so much. He's a triple threat, right? He's a great singer, a great songwriter, and a great guitar player. And in my opinion, there hasn't been a guy like that since Jimi Hendrix. You know, and in the 80s, there was all sorts of music to listen to, like The Art of Noise, right? The later Michael Jackson stuff, you know, Thriller and all that. His sister Janet, I liked her. Level 42, The Police, Tina Turner. Some of that chill stuff, you know, like Sade and Simply Red. Eurythmics, Phil Collins, solo and with Genesis. I love that 80s pop music they made. You know, and a couple of guys from General Hospital too. Yes, I watched it back in the day. Jack Wagner, right? Rick Springfield, remember Dr. Noah Drake? Of course I like the Rolling Stones as well, right? Culture Club, Boy George, what a great singer he was. And of course hip hop was happening as well, right? And I'm listening to people like De La Soul, you know, Tribe Called Quest, Houdini, LL Cool J, The Beasties, Public Enemy, Digital Underground, Mars, remember? Pump up the volume, pump up the volume. What a great track that was. I never heard a record like that before. Tone Loc, of course, right? Young MC, he's the guy who wrote those Tone Loc records. And then he had his own, remember Bust a Move? You can't leave out Eric B. and Rakim. Come on, I'm paid in full, baby. Then you get into the 90s, right? Of course, Snoop, right? All that California rap. Pac, and of course, Biggie, the notorious B.I.G. You know, party. You can't forget all that alternative stuff, right? The Clash, Tears for Fears, King Crimson, Laurie Anderson, Psychedelic Furs, remember them? XTC, The Cure, and Depeche Mode, The Human League, Yazoo. And then I started working at a jazz station, and that turned me on to a whole bunch of other stuff, you know? Like some of the classic jazz, like Miles, right? John Coltrane, and even further back into the bop with Charlie Parker and Diz and stuff. And then back before they called it smooth jazz, you know, people like Michael Franks and Joe Sample, right? Spyro Gyra, all that stuff. I love it all. Everything But the Girl, right? Massive Attack, Gypsy Kings, Dionne Farris, and Arrested Development, right? She was great with and without them. Then you got like CNC Music Factory and Black Box. Although that's, you know what, that's Martha Wash, man. That's the draw for those records. I love her. What a great singer. You know, and there's more. I'm listening to stuff like the Counting Crows, right? More Chiba. I always like those guys. Moby. He's a Connecticut guy, so, you know, you got to big him up. Bare Naked Ladies from Canada, right? Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. You know, and there's more. Like Dolly Parton started putting out some really interesting things in the 90s. 07, right? He's a little later, but Jose Gonzalez from Sweden. Chibo Mato from Japan. Of course, PM Dawn. I actually met Prince B once. That was cool. More recently, things like Daft Punk, right? That Gnarls Barkley record back in 06. The Killers. Kanye West, of course. Some Jay-Z. CeeLo Green, Imogen Heap, Disclosure. Skrillex, Laura and Viola. These guys from France called Justice, right? They had a great record called DANCE. Listen, I'm man enough I can even admit it. I even like Miley Cyrus. Justin Bieber I like. You know, and there's stuff on the charts right now like El King, One Republic, Kygo, Ellie Goulding, The Weeknd from Canada. My man Seasick Steve, right? You know why they call him Seasick? Because he is. You know, I like Jess Glynn, right? Chasing Status, Subfocus, Rudimental, Tiny Tempa, Ed Sheeran. Are you sorry you asked? So the thing is this, I love music, right? And I used to be a DJ too. You know, I was on the radio for a long time and I'm back. I'm doing it again, but I'm just on the internet this time. So it's really cool. And I'm not just playing the stuff I like. No. I'm taking your requests too. So I'm live Monday nights, 9 Eastern, and you can just go to TommyEdison.com/radio to find out how to listen. And of course, I'll never say no to an iTunes gift card, believe me.